Cool, what's up people? So we are on the Saturday market breakdown, and essentially just going to go through the charts and break it down. I haven't actually analysed them, I've just cleared off all the charts and I had a quick look at JP225 and DXY, but essentially I'm just going to go through it and just talk you through my thought process, and hopefully you get some sort of value from it. Obviously there is much better setups this week as well than we had last week. Last week was somewhat of a slower week. We did have setups all in all, but it was just slower, so there's a lot of anticipation, of patience there and discipline. So what I'm looking at on the DXY is I'm keeping it very simple. Obviously the main piece of structure I'm looking at is this, right? And just understanding that this is that sort of area. I think it's better if you are drawing it on, just leave it something like that. Now this is just an inflection point. We can gravitate lower, hence the reason I've put that into the forecast there, where if we do create a larger flag here, you know, we have to understand that this is a possibility. We just sell off and we didn't quite make it to this high. However, we have been gravitating to this high, and this is very corrective price action on the way back down. So given that, if we were going to sell off from this point here, we would have needed some sort of major reference point or something that, you know, was kind of just giving us that sort of indication. You know, we see it time and time again, so that's basically what I was looking at. Whereas if I look left, the only major one was there and I couldn't really see that really reach that. So seeing that sell off now is obviously not something I'm very convinced with the sell off. I wasn't looking for shorts, but obviously looking at how we've moved and how far we've moved, it's possible. So if we do get something on the 1 hour where we can see we get a 1, 2, push down, push back up, a 3, and then we have this equal spacing, then I wouldn't hesitate on potentially looking at the short position, but understanding that the long is potentially still on the table, but you wouldn't want to miss out on the short position. If you did, or if you were able to refine smaller, for example on the 5 minute, and then we did see something like this where, you know, price is somewhat corrective, gets very corrective, makes its way, creates its second bottom, and then spikes up, pushes in here, pushes back down, creates a small little flag over here, would you then hesitate on a short position? That's the real question I have. So that's one of the things that I will be majorly looking at to just see how we develop as we move forward, understanding that there's the possible and the probable. It's likely that if we were going to take a short position, I would want to position myself in this area. Obviously I'm not taking a trade on the DXY, some of you might be, and then I would personally be looking for either something like that, just for the extra protection, and then you could see it there. Obviously if you were to go a little bit more sharp, you could probably squeeze in a lot less, and yeah, you're looking at, you know, maybe about another 7% there, 6%, so it's a 6% difference there. But anyway, we're looking at it to the low, so that's essentially the trade I would be looking for if we did have the structured approach. More than likely this is looking like it's going to be pulling back, seeing it on the 4 hours, so for that reason I've just kind of happily opted to just be patient with that. So yeah, essentially that's kind of it really. I'm not really looking for too much on this. I just want to see that commitment and then move forward. The next one I'm looking at is the JP225. Now the JP225 structurally is in a continuation stage to the upside. However, I am still anticipating the shorts, but we cannot ignore the fact that we're aggressively moving upwards with momentum. We've broken through any sort of structures that I was looking at, and you know, we're just kind of channeling in this sort of nature here. So I'm not gonna really just get married to anything right now or get a bias and say, okay, we're going short. I would wait for confirmation more so. You could see it clear on the 1 hour, but more so on the 4 hour should be an indication. We are seeing some sort of expanding sort of nature here, but more so we had this where we pushed up, we created this flag and we pushed up. So if we did aggressively start to continue and you looked at it from this sort of perspective, you would understand at that point there that what that is, you know, same as this, you would understand these would jump out to you and you'd be like, okay, cool, well, yeah, I can understand what these are at this point and so forth. It's just understanding where they are and how much value they hold. We are in a strong bull momentum run at the moment, so we have no indication that we're really coming short just yet. However, going to the 1 hour, more so if we remove these trend lines and we just look at it for this, and we understand that if for any reason we do come all the way back down with aggressive momentum, not corrective price action, aggressive momentum, and we break this sort of low area, so more so this zone is cleared and we start creating a continuation below that, then I could start looking at the JP225 pairs, the related pairs to this, and then I could see if we have anything shaping up on those pairs, because if we do get that aggressive momentum, we could see that correlating with the other yen pairs, and that's where I could be potentially positioning myself for a good position. So that's basically what I'm looking for on the JP225. I don't think getting caught up in here is a good thing. There was this sort of AFT, sort of trade, but then it just comes with a lot of risk, like I wouldn't want to take something so high up in structure as well. We had this like sort of final squeeze. I think just reading into it too much sometimes can mess with you. It's better to just stay on these higher time frames, look for something clear, let the trend and the market give you that message, and then take an entry from there. Obviously, as we can refine in this. We can even take it reduce risk. I think the refinement one would be better, but you could take it like that as well. Understand that obviously that's much larger, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that large. If you do get the commitment and it plays out, this can still run for a phenomenal position. Whereas more so if you were able to get a pretty refined trade for whatever reason, obviously bear in mind we could get the retest as well. Whatever it is, you might even see yourself with a much bigger but protection I think is very important when you're so high up in structure, so keep that in mind. Moving on to the Aussie pairs. So Aussie yen is probably the one that shaped up last week for me. Didn't take the trade, but it was definitely there and shaped up really nicely. Wasn't the best, but it was definitely structurally on point. So we basically have this sort of zone here. I was looking at this sort of bit of liquidity up here. We didn't quite tap into that, but we got very close. I mean, we're only a few pips away from that. So if we look at it, yeah, it's roughly around about 10 pips. So basically it doesn't matter. We tapped into that liquidity. We've had a strong push away, which I really do like. Let me just go back to the weekly quickly and have a little look at that. Okay, so we can see that. I did the monthly and last month. So yeah, okay, interesting. So is that still the same pair? It's a minute chart. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. And let's see. So we've got Aussie CAD over here on the weekly. It does look interesting. Can't really see anything that jumps out to me there. Looking at it on the weekly, we do have this sort of area where we've rejected multiple times. Big wicking nature there. It's a good area of value, to be honest. We've aggressively moved up with a lot of momentum though, so this is also something I've been very much aware of, but we've made this very corrective run. Wow, so tight and nice as well. Look at that. Look how nice that is. So yeah, we've basically just been squeezing into this, and it looks like we've actually reached the value, potentially reached this value area at this point. Just have to stay sharp now. What I am looking for is this sort of push down on the flag, but we've seen it multiple times where we get a push down, for example, from, there's just so many points, but where do we call it? That's the real sort of one that kind of messes with you. But yeah, so essentially what I want to see actually is a little bit more on this one. It could turn out to be very nice. We see this little push, we see this sort of flag forming, and then we don't get the commitment. I think insurance entry, reduced risk entry is probably in my favor at this point, depending on the flag. Really and truly, really depends on the flag. So let's analyze what we have here, because we're seeing a push down, flag, no continuation, just retraced. Push down, sort of nothing really there. Push up in the flag is pretty decent, but push down the flag, nothing. Push down the flag, so we had that big wick. And we're kind of just getting there. But what I do like about this is this. We have that, and then we have this, and we're finalizing, We're literally sitting in the end. And is this the hover, which is quite interesting. If I go to the 15, yeah, we also have this sort of structure in here as well. So I think this is looking nice, equal spacing. We're just kind of bigger gaps, smaller gaps, squeezing, and then there was this sort of squeeze in there. If I get to the 5 minute, yeah, we could have, nah, it's a bit hard to anticipate that one, but it's there, and then we had to push down. Now we're just creating that decent flag. So I would stay more so on the hourly right now, just to kind of evaluate how this shapes up. I'm looking for 2 bottoms, 2 tops. I can't really make out 2 bottoms at this point right now. Perhaps maybe the ankle is not really on point. 15 minute. Yeah. Could we see something like this, where we have something a little bit more parallel, and then we come into this, we sell off a little bit, come back up, tap into a little bit of liquidity, and we go. That could be interesting. It could be a very interesting gameplay. I think I am more than happy. Neat little trick I learned over, it was literally just running this to here, just size it up. So yeah, I think this is fine. So I would look at something like that and see how this shapes up. Let's just wait and see. If we do get that commitment, that would be good. I'll just clean it up a little bit more. If this becomes an expanding, it is what it is. We just have to take a message from the market, but just wait for this to do its thing, get down here, and then eventually make its way back up, push down, create that flag, and you could go. Risk entry is possible, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of messy price action on this pair, so I would definitely be sharp. If I was going to take this, I would try opted for the risk entry in there if I could, honestly. Probably put a few extra pips, about 13, and then see it to the bottom of this pattern. Let's see if we can get there. So this low, we've got more than enough room to manage to 1%, and then to this low here we've got about 6%, and then we have the much bigger structure over here with this big corrective price action, where I would be wary of these little price points, 10, 14, 17, and then 22. But more importantly, I'm looking at that 6% trade there. Yeah, that's it, Aussie CAD. So something to think about. Aussie Swiss. Honestly, Aussie Swiss is not one I'm going to touch. It's possible that this is just still in continuation to the upside, but right now I think it's just correcting in this area. So, and it could correct for some time before we see it really commit. So for that reason, I'm not really convinced that I want to be getting involved in this yet. I do like how the structure is forming on this, because if we go to the 4 hours we just saw, we can see that price has impulsed and we started correcting. But if the other yen Aussie pairs are selling off, you know, we don't want to be on the wrong side of the market, but we have to understand that this can obviously have its own sort of corrective price action. This could just drop off, create 2 bottoms, next thing you know we're going up, and then there was a trade in there. So I think if I was going to take it, that's the sort of trade I would take. However, I don't think I'm looking, I mean, structurally it's going to look nice if that did play, but you know, the bull runs are looking very nice as well. I think it's one that I'll come back and just kind of have a look at. I don't think it's one that I'm going to really take on board, but it's definitely one worth looking at. I think it's just very corrective. The push through could just be more aggressive. Yeah, I just don't think I'll take that, but who knows, we'll have another look at it later. The 4 hour on Aussie yen, let's see. So I'm looking at this point up here, but we have to understand that we have this little bit of liquidity, and then we had this little hook point right there, right? That's just looking at it on the 4 hour. On the daily, we can see that, you know, this was its own little piece of structure here. So that little bit there was its own. Then we had this very corrective price action in here. let's have a little see. So now it looks like we are moving to the upside, really and truly. Was it? I think, oh, it was Aussie, New Zealand. Honestly, what was I thinking? Yeah, Aussie yen is still looking very bullish. I mean, it's probably in your best interest to be patient, but if you were going to take a trade, you know, these little tight flags could definitely be profitable. It's just at what risk, right? Because this can just drop off, and then all of a sudden we're down here somewhere and we create this flag, and then we're selling, and then you were like, oh, but I thought we were getting to this high. So that's why I think patience is very, very key. But sometimes when you're so high up in these runs, we do get that very aggressive push, especially on these yen pairs. We get that trickle, and then we reach that very high value area. So the real question I have is, what would you wait for? Would you wait for price to get to this high value area, looking at the momentum we have on the bullish, or would you just kind of just FOMO and jump into the trade? So for me, I would rather wait for that and just wait and see. I don't think Aussie yen is one to be ready just yet, but it's good to just set an alert, and if it does start alerting, at least you know what you were looking for. Looking at the nature of this though, this is obviously, to me right now, started off very corrective. So even though we have this very impulsive approach, we have a very corrective price action, which kind of work together anyway. There's no structure to this at the moment. So I will be looking for that insurance entry. So it requires even more patience when we get there. So knowing that already, you've already positioned yourself waiting for price to get up, do whatever it has to do, and then you're waiting for this. So really and truly, there's no point even wasting my time, you know, putting this on watch, because I know I won't be taking the trade unless something crazy in the market happened, you know. But like I said, that's why we set the alert. So I'm going to be setting it like this and leaving it, and then I'm just going to wait. So really and truly, this is definitely going to be more of a patient trade. I don't think there's any need at all for me to be monitoring this until we've really started trading above that area or pushing down aggressively. Aussie New Zealand. So Aussie New Zealand, obviously the main thing that kind of jumps out to me was this bit, but we have to understand that we are quite far away from that, right? And let's have a little look. Okay, so yeah, very far from this, and then we have this little override section at the top here. That's definitely one piece of information I'm looking at. However, we have to understand that on the hourly, we're here, and what's actually happening. So we are trading very close to this high, but we've reached it in a structured way as well from down here, which I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see it, right? And then if I zoom that out, and you see it like this, and then we remove these lines, we can then see that, okay, fine, so we did have a push down, a larger expanding, and now we're getting a bit of an extension. So what we would ideally be looking at was to see, how are we going to approach that? Well, if we have something like this, and let's just say it's like in this angle, it would make sense for this to come back up. But what we can do is we could actually sell off, come all the way down here before we come back up here. And then at that point there, you'll see, okay, we had a 1, 2, 3, and then we had a 1, 2, 3, and then we could look for a short position. Structurally, that looks very nice, especially with expanding into an expanding in the area of a high value area with the reversal. Then I wouldn't be surprised if we had another expanding in there to lead into this. So then we'll get to that level there, and then as we approach, we see ourselves in some sort of another expanding, right? It happens, I've seen it time and time again. Obviously it comes with experience, but you know, that's something. So want to kind of get granular with this quickly and just have a little look at what's happening with price here. So there was this very nice strategic play where we had this high, and we can see on the hourly that we tapped into it. We had an hourly retrace there. So you had this trade here where you could have opted in for about 10 pips from the hourly retrace. with protection. I'd say put it about 13, give yourself a little bit extra room as well, and that would have been the trade there, and you'd be taking that into the low. Definitely holds possibility. We have a strong impulse and we're in corrective price, so we have to understand the risk that it comes with. So you'd want to be protection on. Then if we drill in a little bit more, and as we tapped into that 1 hour retrace, something very significant happened, right? Where we had this, and at that point there, it was looking very, very nice for that AFT entry as well. This was very clean, very nice, and it was looking very, very good, honestly. One thing I do like about this as well is, and I'll just draw it on the 5, but you can see it clearer on the 1, is we had this as well. So we had the ascending channel in there as well. You can see it on the 15 as well. So we had the high, and then we just ascended into it, equal space in arc nature, pushed in there. What did happen was we actually just continued, and then we M-starred straight back into it. We didn't quite feel the M-star, and then we just corrected in that price, and essentially now we just look like we're selling off. So we'll have to wait and see next week, see what happens, but still there was a good trade in there. I guess with that comes risk mitigation, which more so was, if you're taking the reduced risk, you'd put on a little bit extra there and protect yourself. To the low, you know, you're looking at 1.4. I think originally we were looking at 13, which I think was around about here. That would be a 1 hour retrace. And yeah, you'd be looking at roughly around about 2.5, and then to the low 8. So good trade, honestly, really good trade there on the table. And yeah, just kind of going forward now, that's it. I think if we do get more continuation, that's what we're looking for. I think we're now at that stage where seeing if this completes the 90% rule, that's what we're looking for, that as a price target, and just seeing what happens. But if we smash through this, which I think is extremely important, that's when I'll be now looking for the next entry. So if we smash through this and we create this flag and then we go, that could be enough to bring us to the bottom of this expanding, and or maybe even further, who knows, but we'll have to wait and see how that shapes up. So that's basically the next trade I'll be looking at. If we don't, obviously this becomes a very neutral area. This bounces back, we create a flag. This could be enough for us to take us up here. So still very good positioning, regardless if it's a buy or a sell. We could see this to actually shape up and become something very nice. But we have to also understand that, obviously, you know, this may not even be a thing. This expanding may have just been a bit of corrective price. But more than likely, I think, you know, coming into this low, 2 tops, 2 bottoms, larger flag, push up into a value area, it's looking good. So I think that's more so how I'm going to be looking at this one in particular. And the next one I'll be looking at is Aussie US dollar. I think Aussie US dollar is, do you know what, it was looking very good, but now we're just kind of trickling, and we've had a strong push and corrective price action. I'm not convinced to get involved in a trade right now for the short. However, for the long, there's a possibility, but we have to also appreciate the fact that we've completed this, and it's normal for us to push out and push back in. So I wouldn't personally, you know, get upset or stuck into anything, but we have this sort of very sort of odd price action right now, where you could say it's a head and shoulders, but more so I'm looking at this sort of value area here, and then I want to know if we are creating something larger. This had some very good price action over here, as we can see. We pushed, we broke, we continued, and then now we're just kind of in this sort of corrective sort of squeeze this way, which is very interesting. So we had the corrective squeeze up, and then we had the corrective squeeze down. If we continue in this nature, then we might see ourselves coming back down aggressively, which is somewhat of interest, because if I look at how we are approaching this trend line over here, I'm seeing this now as the approach here, where we are coming into this, and as we're coming there into a 1, 2, 3 structured approach, we might then see this short again, and then at that point there we can see what's happening. The big short might come in at that point. So that's basically what I'm looking at on Aussie US dollar, but I think I'm very inclined for the short, but I'm very neutral with the long at the moment, because we cleared this high which was my point of interest. We cleared this high, and then as we've cleared this high, we've now created this sort of continuation here. So with this sort of continuation, just zooming in a little bit further, we're now just accumulating price to potentially go even higher. But I am somewhat neutral because we've just broken above. And, you know, looking at how price is, it's very corrective on the way up. It does make you think that it could reverse, but at the same time, if you look at the bigger time frame structure, we have a lot of room to go up. So I think positioning myself on this right now, looking at this and thinking, okay, cool, this isn't my typical price structure, this isn't the sort of price action I'm looking for, perhaps maybe I've got my trend lines wrong. I'll be looking for something like that, perhaps maybe driving into this little piece of liquidity here, and then for whatever reason I see it, we come back down, great, whatever, come into here, then push, get the flag, we go up for the high, and then that is where I want to price myself, inside this. And I think more so I'm happier with that. If we do do this where we push up and then we come back down as well, I think that's a very interesting trade in itself as well. I think, you know, understanding that this is the floor that I'm looking for, and we can come up and then come down before we go up, right? This becomes the second touch, comes up. Even if it comes for a third touch, we have to understand that that is a possibility. It just becomes somewhat larger, but at the same time, I think it increases the possibility for it to give it enough momentum to give it a stronger push to follow. So yeah, there's a few variations of what I'm looking at, but I think that will be the low. But I don't think I'm going to be taking an AU trade. Looking at the DXY, you know, if the DXY does continue to just aggressively sell off, then yes, okay, we might see Aussie US dollar push. But if we do see it reverse, then we could just see strong sell off and back into here. So then it becomes more neutral, and then we're down here, we trade, we're looking for continuation to the downside. And I think that's what I'm more in favorable for at the moment. However, understanding that we can just get continuation to the upside. So we're not fully going to correlate with the DXY, but we have to understand that positioning is very important when we are looking at taking a buy long or short with a US related pair. What's happening with the DXY? Next one I'm looking at is CAD Swiss. Let's have a little look.
Nice, yeah, so CAD Swiss, essentially we're just looking at this bit of price action here. So we've broken the low, which I think is actually one of the most interesting parts about this pair. And we just need to see what happens now. So the fact that we broke it and then we pushed below and then pushed back up and created this is interesting. Of course, we are creating the next continuation here. So 4 hour doesn't really paint it as well as the 1 hour. As we can see, the 1 hour is the daily, is a lot nicer. As we can see that we have the floor over here, which also around about there. We're looking at this little point here, and then this is basically the high. So the thing about this is, because this is impulse, correction, and then stalling, we can still come down and, you know, sell off. So you don't want to just be getting caught up in some sort of price action just here. Even though it's very early in the run, it's interesting. We've been stalling for quite a lot of time, and this overall to me has not really been the most progressive price. You know, it just doesn't shout like, okay, cool, we're reversing at this point. Looking at it on the weekly, it does look better though, and it does look like we are getting progression. The nice thing about this, even on the weekly, it's even more clear. You can see that we had this clear sort of squeeze to the low, and now we're just breaking out. So this is what holds a little bit more higher probability to me for CAD Swiss, and I think CAD Swiss positioning is really interesting at this point. However, looking at it on the daily, if you look at it like this, then yeah, for sure, you know, you can say, okay, cool, well, we had the 1 2 3 into here, we had the squeeze, the push, and now we're having the continuation to continue to the upside. Positioning wise, it looks very nice, but we have to understand that what we're trading into. So definitely the position for the buy is good, It's definitely very good, and we are in the middle, so it's kind of not so bad. It's just, how can we get into an entry now? That's the real question. Where do you want to be placing yourself? Well, if we're looking at this little bit of price here and this as a little hook point, we have to understand that we can gravitate to this low, but more than likely, if we're in the sequence of going now, we have to see if we have more than enough. So I will be very, very aware that there's that low over there, but at the same time, we could just come back into here one more time before we see the long, and I would like to see that maybe even just push into that and then just push up, and then we see smaller time frame corrections here, where this is where I'll be like more so wanting to position myself. But you know, sometimes it's not the easiest. If we do get that push in, that push back up, that small tight flag that we're going to be looking for, and then we might see something a little bit larger. They won't be clean though. It's one thing that is very hard to catch on this pair, is clean price action, and it just comes with the territory of trading these Swiss pairs. Structure tends to be quite messy a lot of the time, and you have to read between the lines and understand what's happening. So for me, sometimes it feels like I'm trading the zone. Perhaps maybe it's a lack of experience. Maybe I might do a backtesting video on a Swiss pair this week. But yeah, so you know, like over here we can see that we had a nice little squeeze, and then we had a short position. That would have been very nice. You know, it's just, it's overall structure there wasn't really for me. So it comes down to preference, but we might have another little squeeze into this, something like that. We'll see if we do come back down into this, and then we'll see. So I think CAD Swiss is definitely a very nice pair. However, from experience now, I've learned that if it just doesn't sit with you, then it just doesn't sit with you, you know. It's as simple as that. Sometimes we take pairs and we just hope for the best and stuff, and you know, I think sometimes you can get pairs on other you can get structures on other pairs that just stick out to you, and you're kind of like, okay, I like trading this, I feel comfortable, I feel happy, it is what it is. Sometimes the pairs just don't really stick with the way you see things, and you need to adjust. So definitely I wouldn't say close down opportunity because of a lack of knowledge. I'd say practice, but this is what I would be looking for the long position on CAD Swiss personally. Next one I'll be looking at is CAD Yen. I think CAD Yen is certainly one of the most interesting ones so far, because we've basically broken above, let's say, this little bit of liquidity here, and we're seeing it with the other yen pairs as well, with this price just aggressively moving upwards. Are we just going to tap all-time highs? It seems like a possibility, but don't let your guard down. That's something that I've always been reminded of by the markets, is don't let your guard down. Okay, we had a lot of possibilities, we had a lot of cool structures forming, you know. I think more so this was the one that was that sort of area where we were like, okay, this is getting very, very corrective, we're squeezing, maybe this push up and a push down, and at that point there we thought maybe, nah, not at all. Now we just got to be patient and just trade what we see. Okay, we're smashing through every sort of price zone. There's two ways that I would be looking at this personally. Okay, number one, I would be looking to see if price makes its way back down here and we create the continuation to the downside, or if we just create a flag and we continue to the upside. Really and truly, we've cleared this. We've really cleared it. However, I wouldn't draw too far into the lower time frame at this point. I think I would be hella patient and just wait for the market to really reveal what it's going to do. We're gravitating to this high with a lot of aggression at this point. We did come from a lot of corrective price action, and there was some structure within that, but at this point in time, we could just be gravitating to the high. So until we've really given us a message from the market and we've pushed back down here, I don't want to be looking at the market. I don't need to look at this market. It's not really something. So I'm going to set a price alert in two places. I would set one here because I want to see when we're actually tapping into this high, well, below this price now, and then above this price over here. There is these little bits of price here, but I think more than likely we will see something larger forming before we get there, reversal structure, whatnot. We'll have to take it when it comes. But at the moment, if you are looking to go long, then this is a very good territory to be thinking about it. I think personally it comes with a bit of risk as well, because we are so high up in structure, we've been moving so aggressively. Who knows, we could see something like that where we just create something larger, this becomes top, bottom, and then we're in this section here, and this is the go. I would wait for that personally. If I was going to go long, if I saw that, I would take a message from the market, but more so I'm going to be waiting for this, the push down and the flag. So push down, flag over here, and we'll go for the short. And I think that's what I'm going to be looking for. If we do get it, we get it, and then I'll opt in to have a look at that. But like I said, there's no need for me to be looking at it. Swiss yen, on the other hand, we're just trading in just unknown territory most of all. We are literally at our value area actually, which is very interesting. I guess this is why it's important to be checking your charts so frequently on the weekends and stuff, and not get stuck with one pair, because look at this opportunity we're in right now. Wow, honestly, Swiss yen. Okay, so this is something of very, very good interest, and I would say this is where you have to be extremely patient as well. Okay, now time and time again we see things like this where we're tapping into this all-time high, and people just FOMO and just want to take the trade. But we have to understand that what we're going to see now is same with the other yen pairs. We might see this push up, and then we're going to get that aggressive sell momentum. This one I think definitely needs to be put on watch as an essential, just because of where we are. Probably no trade will be taken, I'll be honest with you. Just looking at it, it just doesn't have what it needs right now. We have an ascending into this, which is very nice. Evaluating it on the weekly, see how price is. So yeah, price just shot up here, and then we had some choppy aggressive sell-off there, continuation, push down, and so forth. Obviously it's not really loading price properly. It's probably just TradingView there is. I don't believe there was. Oh, actually no, we are looking at 1988. So yeah, okay. Wow, this is an all-time high. So last time while we were in this area, we sold off aggressively, super aggressive. Right now for Swiss yen, it's doing extremely well. A lot of money shifting the markets, and we're going to see some big changes. So this could be the beginning of the bear trend that hasn't really appeared since most of us have actually been trading, which is the 90s. I think early, about mid to the end of 2000, brand new year, we just started the bull run. And then obviously we had the black market crash 2008 or something, Black Monday or something over here. 2016, I think there was financial crisis again, and then we're up here. And I think this is timing in with the next financial crisis, which we're currently in, the housing market crisis that everyone should be aware of. If you don't own a house and you're thinking about a house, maybe think a little bit longer, because the market is extremely expensive in terms of inflation and stuff. Even if you own it in cash, the problem is you're paying a huge amount on your bills for gas, electricity, and so forth. Unless you're one of those people who have your own solar panels, you have your own generator, maybe your own windmill, whatever, you might be a little bit better off. But just kind of keeping you aware of that. Swiss yen, honestly, I can't really express how good this is. I think I would wait for the push down on the flag, even though we are in this good value area, because there is the opportunity of this to just do its thing, and as we're seeing with other yen pairs, and then we see something crazy, But once it starts to sell, guys, there's going to be some great opportunity. As we saw on the weekly, though, it can take some time to commit, but you could have this on your portfolio as a long-term position. Understand that, we saw something like this where the correction was a little bit longer. We could see something like that for sure. But let's go be a little bit more real. We're going to have a lot of bears entering the market. We're going to have a lot of banks, institutions, and very, very important people positioning themselves in this area. However, we're seeing a lot of the time that, price can come up, come down, come up again, come down, things like that. Be aware of this. It's obviously something that I don't want you to just think that because you're positioned there, you're going to hold like a break-even trade forever. Trade it as you would, man. You're going to make so much money in understanding things like this in the future that you're better off just capitalizing and moving forward incrementally than just holding. I think last week and the week before I was experimenting with taking positions but holding a break even. Overall I ran around about 13 to 14%, but I took break evens or even a 1% loss on some of the trades. And massive lesson learned, I think sticking to my original management process was always better. Even though some trades ran off and made 13, 14% and I came out with 2-3%, it is what it is, I don't think I've given it enough time to really let it sink in. But I think personally, incrementally you're going to grow and you're going to see that growth, and that's going to motivate you even more than getting into big trades. You see it tap in, you see yourself making a profit, you get quite happy, and then it's all gone, and then you're going back through that loophole 6 or 7 times before you see yourself in a significant profitable trade. And then you might just decide that you need to close it because you need to you need your account to grow. You can't be staying stagnant for so long. So anyway, that's it. And I think one of the main important things for trading is making the money, taking the money out of the market, spending the money, coming back to the market, making more money, and then really experiencing that. If you're just looking to take trades and hold them, for example, you take a trade over here and you hold it, the thing is, how are you going to feel psychologically? Like, let's say you held that that was your thing, and eventually it ran to, let's just say you got this trade, eventually it ran to 20%. When are you going to know to stop? You've literally been in this trade for, call it 113 days. You're just going to say, no, I'm going to hold it forever, and then eventually you're going to take the loss or the break even or whatever, or you might just take a small profit of 10% or whatever. But you waited like a whole year, so you gave half of it back anyway through swaps. It's just one of those ones where I think understanding that psychologically now has kind of leveled me up again and made me just understand that, listen, if there's a good trade there, you take the trade, you're running good profit, you take it out, you leave it in, whatever your decision you made, you're disciplined, you followed your strategy, you're patient, you understand yourself. That's more important than holding a big trade and making 20-30%. Incremental growth is way better, honestly. Like, I can just say to you, there was one trade here on the break of this, trade over here, probably some trades in there, but wouldn't have taken anything there, and then that was it for this bet for me. Maybe if I analyze a little bit deeper, then I could have probably seen something else, but that was basically it. And then we just go forward from there. And I think most people need to understand that there's trades an abundance of pairs, and this is just forex. You have your indices, you have your commodities, you have your cryptos, and then obviously everything else that comes into the market, your exotics and whatnot, that's not on here. So just understand that as well. Euro Aussie, I think Euro Aussie is also one that I'm going to be really interested in seeing. I think what I do like about this is we are now just heavily stalling. We are moving down with aggression, but I think we're in a larger pullback area now. I think with this stalling and this hesitation in the market, when I say larger, I don't mean that we're going to pull back and come all the way back up here. Okay, we could over a period of time if structure presents it like that, but we could be creating something something like this, and it accumulates over a bit of time. Maybe that was a little bit too large, but we are in that sort of area where I think we need to be sharp and not let our guard down, because this could shape up and become something very interesting. So for that reason, I would be looking at this very closely to wait and see if we do get some sort of structures developing, and then if they do develop further and they tap into a high value area, we can see that as well. But we are trading at the low right now. We're consolidating. I don't think it's a trade that I'm willing to take right now at this point. Even if it did look like a long was shaping up, it's just so corrective here at the moment. like all of this price action, it's just accumulating. If market reverses, I'll take a message from the market, might do whatever it has to do, come in here for like 100 times, and then eventually, boom, we get one big candle, we get these tight flags, and then, you know, next thing you know, we're moving. And that's where I'll be looking to get positioned. So hella patient, don't need to waste my time looking at something like this. Just let the market give you a message and then take it from there. So EA is definitely not one I need to be watching right now. I can come back to it in a week's time. If there's a mistrade on it, it is what it is. So let's just have a little look. Okay, and then moving on to the next one, which we have is EuroCAD. Now, I like EuroCAD a lot, to be honest. Following it last week, we saw this. Honestly, this is it. This is the markets, man, all summed up into one. Show you this beautiful structure right here. Right, this was beautiful. Obviously, not for most people who would have missed it, because then it was quite difficult to get the entry every time. But then breaking it down, we can see on the hourly, there was some further structures on the way down. You know, we can see this section here, where we had this sort of formation, and then over here, I guess there wasn't really an entry in my opinion. And then over here was a little bit difficult, and then we just create this larger structure. So really and truly right now we are in the area of major interest. In fact, seeing it correct over the evening, we actually created what I was looking for. So we have this, we kind of just pulled back into this liquidity area. Be careful, because we can kind of just do that, but more than likely, seeing this now of how we are on the daily, we look at this structure, we've retraced fully, we've done a nice full retrace at the top, which is very, very much nice. We're seeing that impulsive candle in the 4 hour. We've seen that we didn't continue, mini scoop double top here, push down, and now we evaluate on the lower time frames, are we in flagging territory? Well, yes, essentially we have this, the little bit of an extension, which if we go to the 5, no surprise that we are moving very corrective nature into this high over here, and that's it. I think that is the trade right there, guys. That is exactly what I'm looking for. It's very corrective, yeah. It's looking good. The real question now is, market open, do we just do that, drop off? We could take entries in this area for sure. Understand that it does come with undeveloped structure, but more than likely this could form into something a little bit more corrective like that, but I'm not too sure about the larger structure here. I think this could be enough. This could be a really good structure. Wait and see, honestly. If we tap into that high there, we don't really need to, we kind of have enough. We could even take the sell right here and that trade, but it comes with a bit of risk, you know. It's like, is that really where you want to put your risk, or, you know, it's one of those ones. But if we take it to the bottom of this pattern, it could be a very nice trade of roughly around about 15%. So looking at it like that, it looks good, looks really good. I'm quite excited about this position. I think this could shape up to be very, very nice. We'll wait and see. Euro Swiss, to be honest, I couldn't really find anything on Euro Swiss last time I looked. I don't know if I'm going to see anything now. I mean, the last time we checked, we have this. We didn't get no commitment, we just fully pushed back up, and it's no surprise that we are going quite bullish. It's just one of those ones where it's become very corrective price action at this point, and I don't know. I really don't know. There's not really somewhere that I'm looking to trade into or trade against, because we cleared this low. Cleared that low, and then we pushed, we just trickled, and it looks like we're making, well, we had this sort of formation, and now we're just kind of creating, you know, a bit of a mess in here. I don't know, I don't think there's enough data on there for me to really do a good analysis. Perhaps maybe I'm missing something. If you guys see anything on this pair that I'm missing, I'll be interested to know. I mean, more so, I think, keep it very simple. Perhaps maybe even daily might paint enough of a picture because of how long we've been here, and essentially just kind of just looking at it as an area. Maybe we're looking at an M star sort of formation right now, where the market is basically just scooping to tap into this high again. Perhaps maybe that's the gameplay, and then we'll wait and see if the market comes into here, and then we just get rejection and we just go, that could possibly be it. Once again, I can't really put my finger on what this structure is really turning into, and I think for that reason I just wouldn't put it on watch. I'm just going to leave that. Euro GBP has cleared the low over here, which is quite good. We're kind of moving down with aggression at the moment, but we can still retrace back up. What we did have was some nice structure in this section here, and we had some sort of corrective price there, but more so within here I would have analysed that for an entry and seen what I could have actually taken advantage of. I think it's not the easiest one sometimes because we just don't know, like it corrects for so much time, it's difficult for us to say. We would want to just slap on that and then realistically wait for something to come up here, but as you can see we didn't get that even to this point, almost, and then if you take it back, you know, it's just, I guess, yeah, it just comes with probably a little bit of zooming out, perhaps maybe even looking at it on a line chart. So yeah, it's just one of that corrective squeeze into that, and then it just drops off. So I wouldn't have been able to, with my current expertise, I wouldn't have been able to take a trade in this, and I probably would have just left it break below that. Wouldn't be surprised with the continuation down. I'm not really trading against anything. It's just this, you know, we had this little price point here, and I think if we were to go long, we would have just accumulated pushed. It was looking more and more like a continuation to the downside. So no surprise we're getting that momentum to continue, and now we're trading below this area. We just have all this room to push. Very interesting price action that we could just move aggressively. Wouldn't be surprised though if we did start correcting in this area, something like this, before we went. So I would stay sharp for this, because, you know, as we kind of approach this area here, we did see a small correction there, and then it pulled up and went down. Could we see something quite similar here? That's what I'm interested in, because the last time we had major interest in the pair was when we came to this low, right? So let's just take that bit of price data and look at it like that. And if we put that on here, yeah, if we saw something like that again, would we really be surprised to see it drop off? Not really. I mean, it's just so corrective at this point that it just becomes difficult. Becomes more and more difficult price action. So yeah, expertise comes in. I think I will leave that, and if I was going to take it, I'd look for a continuation to the downside at this point, just because of how it's moving. EJ, gosh, I love EJ right now. Sorry, for me it's really hot here and it's making me quite tired. I just came back from the beach, so between, I think it was Euro Aussie and Euro CAD, I actually went off and went to the beach for a bit, so I'm feeling a little bit tired, but not tired enough to get through this. And yeah, so essentially could look at that as an angle. To be honest, I don't really care about that. I'm more so interested in just this high. Just want to see if we can get to that high. We are still just breaking above this high, so we don't have to get to that high, but it seems like it's likely at this point with all this aggression. Could see this with entry points. Remember, that was the monthly. Wow, so much room for movement. We're getting these massive bull candles as well. Look, honestly, positioning could have been great. It's just, how would you position yourself? I think over here there was possibly an entry in there. probably that was about it for me. Maybe over here you can kind of see that expanding, but then it just, for me, it becomes a little bit low probability because of the aggression of the run. But then if you zoom out and you look at it on the daily and you see where we're running towards, is it really lower probability? Because yeah, okay, we have a small hook point here, but in the grand scheme of things, we could be really moving towards this price target, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I see that. I can really see that. So, could be an interesting one to look at. I wouldn't let my heart guard down, because if I show you this, right, and let's just say we do get something which is clear as day. For example, this pops off, comes down here, doesn't quite come up, yeah, comes back down here, comes up, maybe even pushes. Just saying, as an example, and we did have something in this light here, would you hesitate on that entry? Because remember, you're still, in the grand scheme of things, in a small position. Let's say that you took that and you were able to get an aggressive entry around about 20 pips. You could go half of that, so we could double whatever percentage you're looking at. And to this high, you could be targeting. That alone is, that's 72% position. And remember, that's there. If we were able to get a little bit of a tighter stop, even with 10, if you're fortunate enough to get that 10 pip stop loss, boy, you'd be running 128 odd percent. That's incredible returns, I'll be honest with you. So obviously that's one to just keep in mind. With this aggressive move, I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw bullish momentum. You know, it's not impossible. Of course, we're not going to move there in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It could take somewhat another month, but you're positioning yourself very strategically. Honestly, guys, this is some phenomenal area to be entering the market, and I'm very interested to know. I mean, anywhere down here as well, I'm just contemplating, like, had we positioned ourselves with a tight stop loss, even 30 pips, and then we trade into, you know, this sort of area. Position wise, wow, 93, and then if I was to get that 10 pip, wow, I've never ever seen a percentage gain of 220%. Insane. That's over the course of 3 years, though, of course, taking the swaps into consideration and everything. It's probably like 130%, 140%. It's definitely worth considering, I think, in the grand scheme of things. If something does shape up, would you really want to put a good position like that down? Not really. Just understand that you are quite close to higher structure, so if it does decide to kind of get a bit more corrective, we understood that before we entered the market. But look at this, you know, this aggressive push here, and then it just continued. You know, this could actually be like EJ, for example. You could be looking at EJ right now, be thinking, okay, well, it's very bullish. We could get a pullback here and then see something larger before we go, right? And then what happens is, a few months later, you're looking at it and you're like, oh, wait, what? We didn't even come back. How did we get where? You know what I mean? So anything's possible, man. Just trade what you see and trade what you know. Looking at this now, I think as well, Euro New Zealand, we can see that corrective squeeze here. We did have a nice little retracement in the middle of nowhere. I still think this has some bearish momentum in it. I don't really see this squeeze really ending until we've really cleared this. You know, I think this is still just a part of this corrective price. Okay, we did have this sort of squeeze. We pushed down here, pushed up, create this flag. But is that really the flag you want to take to go to the upside? Do we really think this could be it? Well, let's wait. Let's see. Let's weigh up our confluences, and possibly it could possibly be the right positioning, but we are still within this very corrective price action. So we have to really understand where we're positioning ourselves.
See this over here. Over there we do have a nice, we had a 1 hour retrace, and then we had all of this. We do have this on 15. What about the hourly? How's the hourly looking? I think we might fill that gap, that wick. Personally, I think that wick might get filled. I don't think I'll be taking the buy here. I don't think this is the point where we move up. Honestly, I think what could potentially happen is market opens, we come up a little bit, and then we just drop off again, catch people out, and then at some point we're ready to go. Creating an internal structure within here, something like that, possibly, very much possible to see something like this. Wouldn't be surprised. And then from there we can kind of be like, okay, now I understand why we sold off and why we went from here. Wait for something like that. I think that would be a lot better play. Do I want to take that as a position? No. I think it has massive potential. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Damn. I'm a bit concerned though with it, to be honest, because we have this price point. Perhaps maybe we are coming to fill in some more liquidity in this area. This is what we're actually looking at, and then maybe evolving structure, something like that. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Honestly, I think personally we could see something internal. No, I don't know. Honestly, it's a tricky one. It's a really tricky one in my opinion. It's very tricky. I'll come back and look at it. I think that's what I'll do. It's an interesting one. It has some potential to it. The entry is a bit of a high risk trade. I'm not sure if I want to take many high risk trades this week, but it has potential. So I might just keep it on the sideline, look at it. But let's see, weekly on the Euro USD. Let's go back to the DXY and just have a look at that. Okay, so DXY, we saw this. We're kind of potentially creating a larger flag or kind of push down. Okay, or we push. Okay, that makes sense. So looking at it over here, my first thoughts are top and bottom. Is it possible that we do this, come back down, and then we go? That's my first instant thought looking at this. I just don't see any sort of price points over here that stick out, kind of saying, okay, liquidity is now, volume is being carried in to the market, and we're going to go to the downside. Nothing really jumps out to me. However, could be surprised. Yeah, I would simply just leave that structure on there and wait it through. That looks good. That looks really good. I think this is inverted. It must be inverted. What am I looking at? No, it's not inverted. Yeah. Honestly, looking at Euro USD like this is interesting. And then, yeah, having this little point over here, I think we could smash through this. I think, honestly, if DXY sells off and just continues, we'll smash through that and just continue going. I want to position myself in here, honestly, for the long. I'm very, very interested in this pair. Boy, I think this is going to be nice. Honestly, the more I look at it, it just screams at me like, get involved. Look at the trend. Honestly, look at the trend. Some of these happen to be the best trends when they make it quite difficult to get involved. But just look at it, like structurally, all that corrective price action, so much structure, made it so corrective, and then we're seeing this begin here, but then we're seeing this very impulsive push now. Yeah, it started off a bit corrective, very impulsive push. Perhaps maybe if we get this, and honestly, there's quality within quality here. Obviously, the only thing I would mainly be worried about is that high. And that's about it. The next one I'm going to be looking at is GBP Aussie. GBP Aussie is simple Russell structure, just jump out to me again. I think looking at this one, we've got this high over here, which we basically tapped into, but I don't think we're selling off at this point. It was looking like we had the push down, potential flag over here, didn't quite get any commitment, and it's now continued, so this is just irrelevant. No surprise, the bottom wasn't very clear either. Monthly though, we did get a very interesting, well, we haven't closed, a very interesting price action, especially here, how we just pushed away from this price quite aggressively. Let's have a little look to the left. Okay, what's really in this area? Can't really see nothing. Interesting why we kind of just pushed up here, sold off, just became the zone. Now we've come back here. We've pin barred on that high as well, but we haven't broke it actually. As I just move this here, I can see there's a near miss gap. We did get a push away, and we do look like we could be creating continuation. I won't go there actually. Aha. Just trying to think what could really be happening here. Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. I feel that comes with a bit of risk here. You know, we're kind of just sitting on the low, creating the flag, but we have broken the low. We've came and retest, rejected, created this section here. Interesting. And then now creating another piece of structure there. Does this just develop into... Nah. I do think this is interesting. I want to know what's going to happen. It frustrates me sometimes when you just don't know. Which pretty much could be all the time, but we'll see. Yeah, I think I'll leave that as a little hook point. And I want to see this. Do we just do whatever we need to do when we get up here, and then we'll continue to sell. Could be interesting, could be very interesting. It does look like we could potentially be going long as well though. So if we push, I think with this one, if GA did happen to just push back in and we started continuing up here, that's a clear message from the market that we're going to be making our way all the way back up there, and I think that's good positioning in itself. So yeah, essentially I'd be looking at it like that. Two approaches. We either get a structured approach, or we come in off this, we retrace, we start coming back down, but then understanding the fact that we are still within this with the near miss, I don't think I'll be wanting to take the short. I think I'll be looking for just the long. Understanding the short is there, the confluences are there, everything is there, but I'll be looking for the long if I was going to be taking that. GBP CAD. GBP CAD. Okay. GBP CAD is interesting. We are going to come to this point. I can see it already. We can analyze it a little bit closer. Perhaps this was supposed to be, and now we've just evolved. I think that's the structure. The reason why I didn't take that one is because this is more parallel to the bottom one, but we can also take that into consideration as well. But more than likely we're going to break through this and push up anyway. So if I was going to be looking at one, I would be looking at this channel more so, because I still want to see it come up to this point. And if we do extend further, and then for example price comes in, creates this sort of, creates a price and then makes its way up, then I understand that this trend line was actually supposed to be over there, and then we're at the top, and we do have an internal 1, 2, 3 leading up to structure. So then when you look at it like this, automatically you're going to have to evolve it at that point. This would still be valid, absolutely. It's just it doesn't look right to me. It just really doesn't look right. This looks
this looks a little bit better to me. Stance sticks out a bit more, but even though we don't really need those, we just need to know that's an extra complement in our favor. More so, just understand that we have this. So that's what I'll be looking for. And then obviously this will just be there to complement what we already have. And then we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. So essentially that's what I'll be looking for, is price to get to these areas and then wait in evaluation for it. But because of where we're coming from on the weekly and how we're getting there, it could just become very corrective. But even so, price action like this, as we know from experience, is very tradable. So you can still make a lot of profit in there. You just need to understand how to trade it and when to trade it, when to be in and out of the market. So that's something that I will be reevaluating. Oh, actually, sorry, no, I won't be reevaluating that anytime soon. We're nowhere near, so I wouldn't even entertain it. What I would do though is I would set the alert. Simple and easy. Set the alert, leave it, and let it do its thing. Okay, GBP Swiss. Now, I actually think GBP Swiss could be a little bit of a trap. I'm seeing it time and time again. I'm just curious, honestly, I'm very curious. Are we going to see something like that again? Maybe. It's just looking like it will repeat itself over and over again. We're seeing it there, seeing it there, seeing it there. Usually 3 times the charm, but we'll have to see. And I personally would wait for a lot more. I mean, I wouldn't wait for something like that. I don't know where that came from, honestly, like 1974. Perhaps maybe there was some historical bailout or something, but looking at it like this, we're in, the GBP is not doing great against the Swiss franc, but if we were going to see this and it was going to go coming up here, and I think maybe in around, I don't know, to be honest, I think this one could just easily go missed for me. It doesn't really pop to me, man. Honestly, I need it to speak to me, and this one does not speak to me at all, so I'm going to leave that. GBP Yen is looking somewhat, let's see, let's have a little look. So this is the monthly. I don't think I'm interested in any sort of 1, 2, 3 there, but I'm interested in this. It has a strong feeling it's going to surpass that though. Ooh. I'm seeing this with all the yen pairs, man. We're going to get that aggressive move, I'm telling you. That aggressive move is coming. We're seeing, I should have caught onto it earlier. I don't know where my mind was at. I think maybe another lesson is I was fixating this nonsense. Then I was waiting for it to push up, push back down, and the JP225 was looking like it was going to turn around, but I guess it's a lesson for me. And then, was there any entries for the long? Oh man, there was a few. Yeah, there was one. Probably wouldn't have taken that, but this one here for sure. Boy, I could have even taken that reduced risk. Yeah, 20 pips, fuck. Boy, that's nice. You'd have to be sharp. I was sharp. I would be ready for that next time. Looks like we're shaping up now, though. Looks like we're shaping up now, but I'm not going to go for something so small and so tight. I want a bit more to that. I don't think I want to go just, this is not my flag. I like it though, but honestly, that one stuck out. Honestly, now you look at it from up here, you're like, shit, that's sick. Probably see something similar, but I'm going to wait for a bit more. I want to see it come down, come back up, come back down. There we go. And that's what I'll be looking for. If we get something like this, for sure, yeah, I'll be looking for that long position. Clear, maybe enough candles on a 1 hour, maybe not as clear, but definitely on the, I mean, if that's a nice tight flat flag on a 1 hour, for sure, man, you would want to take that every day. Reduce risk, probably I'll go for risk entry on this one. It's a bit higher risk though, because actually, well, it's made me think, I mean, there's no way we can really move that too, so we're going to take a bit extra, like 13, and then to the high it could be looking at roughly right at about 2%. So even if I took that with
of 17. I could do 78 pips as well. I'd be happy to say that, but I'll say with the sort of 13 pips and look at something like that, and then I'm not even going to waste my time. But yeah, if it eventually makes that move, but you know what, this takes time, man. Honestly, this could move so quick, or it could take weeks. We may not even be up there till 2024. Boy, something like this could happen where we're moving up aggressively and then boom. No, sorry, not that crazy, but moving up and then we start trickling down, and then next thing you know, by the time we're up here, yeah, sorry about that. By the time we're up here, we can just, look for short. So I'll keep it quite simple. I'll just look for that larger flag. So it's not larger, but this sort of flag here, clear on the 1 hour, and then look for that long position. Go with the trend, see what happens from there. Next one is GBP New Zealand. New Zealand's looking okay. I mean, we have the high time frame structure in here as well. I'm not too bothered about that, to be honest. It's just a couple of lines there, but more so looking at what's happening in this sort of area. So we haven't really got any commitment to the low yet. And if we zoom out a little bit, just look at it. We have the strong impulse, this sort of correction. It's not giving me that typical we're selling off sort of idea. Do we get this sort of tight squeeze? Maybe. It's one of them ones. I think at the moment I'm just going to look at it for what it is and just understand that, okay, we have this sort of very corrective price. And yeah, I mean, I can't really tell that this is the structure at this point because it's a bit premature. Really and truly, we tapped into this high, we pushed up, we pushed back down, we created this flag. It's looking good. The only thing I would really look at now is that the fact that we are trading below this, we've broken this low. This does kind of have that descending sort of nature. But if we do start creating something like that, yeah, for sure we could look for a short. So I would look for it clear on the 15, maybe with a 1 hour sort of candlestick confirmation there, and that's it basically. I would look for something like that to go to the low. GN is looking okay. Where would I trade it to? Well, I would trade it to the bottom of this expanding, to be honest. And I think looking at it to the bottom of this expanding, if I took it reduced risk, yeah, reduced risk 15, could easily be about 13 pips position there. So it looks okay, but it needs a bit more evaluation on it because I see a few variations. I see that we've tapped into this high, we've had a nice little equal space and scoop. We have this little bit of liquidity there, don't need to really tap into that now. We've completed this sort of expanding structure. It could be enough. It really could be enough. And then perhaps maybe when this revisits this low, this becomes a bottom. Then we have something like that. And then this just becomes something larger. So I'll keep those in mind for sure. More so I'm just looking at it for what it is. We do have a nice push away from there, so that is quite nice. I'll think about it. Really, I'll have to think about this one because we're not really giving me any sort of major shorting momentum, but there could be a nice little short play in there for a couple percent, so we'll look at that. GU, looking like the long is on the table, guys. So we have this sort of corrective price, we had that arc, potentially looking for it to come back down to create this larger structure here. Always looking at the long. We've been pro long for some time now. This was a phenomenal low that we saw ages ago. If you go back in the videos to March time, we were anticipating it all the way since February and so forth. But more so if we look over here, what we have is basically, and I wouldn't even worry about this so much. Understand that, yeah, okay, fine. If we do reject from there, it was just that sort of situation. But more so, I wouldn't be wasting my time looking at something this large and so forth. Just look at it for what it is. We had this high, we broke above this high now. On the weekly, we can see we're moving with some aggressive momentum. On the 4 hour, we're seeing that, okay, we've cleared the price action from here. We've cleared it completely. And now we're just creating some sort of structures in there. If we do get something larger like that, wow, honestly, do not hesitate on clicking that button because
that could turn out to be phenomenal. Obviously, you'd have to evaluate your RO3, this section here of how you want to take the entry, what entry you're looking for. Is it going to be a flag, and so forth? Is it insurance entry? I mean, I wouldn't personally take an entry that large, over 100 pips. It's just not really in my sort of trading plan. However, I would entertain a trade over here, depending on the approach, depending on the structure, and so forth. You know, even if it was somewhat larger, 24 pips, wouldn't be so concerned in the grand scheme of things. But a insurance entry would also be very nice. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, that's quite nice, to be honest. I think that deserves to be looked at again as well. And New Zealand CAD, I did look at this one as well. I'm just not sure about New Zealand CAD anymore, man. Honestly, like, we had the retest of this, got the rejection, which is nice. Looking at the 4 hour, just that corrective price action now. I see it as an impulse, but then I see it more so like this, which is clearer on the line chart. We have something like that, and then that gives it sort of momentum to come back up, and then it pushes, and the next thing you know, we have something larger. And then if we had something like that into this sort of inflection point, I might entertain the short at that point, because this is overall very corrective, and then we could see something larger forming. And then if we go back to the larger time frame, if we did see something like that forming, would we hesitate on a short position to the low? I don't think so. We would just understand that, yeah, okay, it's in this corrective squeeze, but we do have some structure in it. Although this is reversal territory, I would be interested to learn from this, but I wouldn't be interested to take a trade. I think the learning experience for this would be more valuable than the trade itself. There was a good trade in here, but for sure I couldn't take that, you know. It just gives me just so many FOMO vibes looking at that trade, because even though it played out and it looks pretty decent, I just don't know, man. I think you could read between that and say, okay, cool, I could risk it. I just think there's better things to be trading right now, better places to position yourself. That's so high risk in my opinion, and I couldn't touch that. But over here we can just kind of read between this and say, fine, let's just look at this as the low over here, and let's just see price squeezing into it. So let it do its thing, and let's just see, you know, what happens with this. If it does come up a little bit, come back down like this, so be it. We'll read between the lines there, understand that it's now just a part of probabilities or whatever, and the structure just became somewhat bigger. That was it. Yeah, like I said, I'm not really interested in this. I'm not going to waste my time looking at New Zealand CAD. I think, like I said just now, there's a lot of better things on the table for someone like myself, and yeah, I'm going to wait for some better trades. So New Zealand CAD can wait. I think GBP, New Zealand Swiss, on the other hand, even though we're kind of in this sort of corrective price, there's the potential for us to come back and revisit this level, which I think is quite cool, that we're moving in sort of the natural sequence of impulse correction continuation. We did create the floor here, we came back and retested it again. I do like that. I'm interested to see if we do come back up here and we come back down here and then we go. If that happens, I'll for sure be interested in that, because that could be a nice interesting play into this bit. But then looking at the high time frame, because of that corrective price and where we drove into, we could just push even further up. So positioning on that, not only is it a nice trade, it could have a little bit more potential, but also it kind of can run into something like this, which I'm interested in knowing what could potentially happen at that. I wouldn't go in that short, but if we do come up higher and we come into one of these points, we could see something a little bit more parallel would be of interest. Because look, boy, if that extends and then we can see another pattern forming over here, and then we create that, and then we do this, wouldn't that be interesting? And yeah, I think it's still early days, we're still in that corrective squeeze low. I wouldn't just get banked on that, but that's a good theory in my opinion. wait and see. Anyway, we have this one structure. We'll see that could be more than enough for it to just sell off from here as well, and then we start moving to the low again, and we just carry on structure within structure within structure and so forth. So that's what I'm going to be looking at New Zealand Swiss. I'll come back and evaluate that one. I haven't actually taken a trade in New Zealand Swiss before, I don't think, so that would be interesting. And New Zealand Yen, already I'm actually really liking this one. Gosh, okay, so first things first, we have this high over here. That's what I'm interested in. We do have a little point over here, but not so interested in that right now. Perhaps maybe it might poke out sooner. I will be aware of it as we approach it. You can see this. Oh boy, look at that. Honestly, man, sometimes I get so excited when I see stuff like this. I don't know about you guys, but when you can see it, you see it. More than likely, we're going to push through this and just go. I don't see no internal structure as of yet. There's this sort of squeeze to it. Hey, listen, look, that's structure in 101. I mean, we've tested this so many times. It would be no surprise if we did push through, but honestly, I have to appreciate that and say that's really nice. I'll put on this ray line here, and with that, I would look at this simple push up, push back down, flag, and then see if we do even come back down to here. If we do, that would be interesting. That would be very, very, very interesting. Not to say that we're going to carry on the sell, but it would just be interesting to see. More so, we do have this sort of level here as well, just above, and I wouldn't be too concerned because I think that was a part of this. Leading into that, so I believe that's in its own little section, but that is obviously the high. And then we have this section over here, which I think really and truly, if it's going to jump out to me, the first thing that really just grabs my attention is that low, and for some reason this little section over here, perhaps maybe just there, staying a little bit parallel, and that's it there. However, remember, as we just said, this could just be accumulation for this big run as well, where we can get that strong push. Wouldn't be surprised, really and truly, when I look at it. And then look, we have this little inflection point up there. By the time this trickles and does everything it has to do, goes up, creates another larger flag, comes up, does this, you know, all of this stuff, and then eventually just rapid, and we're up here, would we be surprised? Absolutely not. We can even stall and create another structure within that, which I'm thinking more so is a possibility, you know, something like that, and then it comes in, there's another pattern, you know, things like this. Honestly, I've seen, so many thoughts flowing through my head right now, but the best thing to do is keep it simple and just wait, and then see if we can trade this. Even if we take this as a simple range play from this section up here to the low, it is what it is, man. Especially with New Zealand yen, how it's shaping up. I don't think it's going to sell off forever, but we could get some very, very good bear momentum, especially with this New Zealand pairs. This one can crash like to this low. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a sell-off from A to B. If I take that over here, the insurance entry, and let's say I was able to take the insurance entry with, say, 18 pips. Yeah, still looking at 45, and then obviously, if I can even get that. Well, I don't know if I'll get an AFT on this, man. It kind of makes me feel a bit nervous, but let's have a little look. 10 pips, woo, 75. Yeah, boy, that's mad. So let's have a little look at that one. Let's keep that on the side. We've got weekly candles. Oh, okay. New Zealand US dollar is looking kind of cool. We've tapped into this area of value. We haven't smashed through it, but I don't think we really need to. It's just a bit of liquidity. We filled 90% of that. It's more than enough at this point. Looking at that arc in nature, pushed up, and now we're just creating this sort of continuation. It looks like it's beginning. It's really looking good. It's taken some time. We've got a nice little middle section in there as well. Obviously not the cleanest. Daily, seeing it there. That's looking good. There's a little flag over here as well, which just kind of popped out. We had this, probably wouldn't, but this one over here could have been of interest. I think that was a creme de la creme. creme de la creme right here. Interesting one. Probably it's on a 4 hour as well. Oh my god. Shit. Probably. You would have never known that was it though. Creme de la creme. Yeah, that was a 15 pip stop. I think you could have got a better trade in there anyway somewhere, but it's okay. It's okay. It's nothing of high quality. I'm happy to not even take this one, to be honest. It's just not my price action. It's looking a bit choppy. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one out. I'll come back and think about it, but I don't think New Zealand US dollars one I'm going to be entertaining. Something of interest though, if we do create another flag over here and we go through, you could be well protected below that. So I think yeah, we're good with that trade, to be honest. Another flag up here could be good as well. So we'll see how that goes. And then we have USD CAD. Boy, I love this pair. Let's see. So we're looking at 4 hour right now, but let's go up to the weekly. Goodness. This is what I've been looking for some time, to be honest. And I do really like this. The fact that we've come in with a 1, 2, 3. I don't know if you guys can see it, but we have this section right over here. So we have this, and then we have the correction. Let's see if it's anywhere near. Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, let's have a little look on the daily. I think with the DXY selling off a little bit more, we could see a little bit more of a push. Let's look for some internal structures. So this is where we will scan. I was seeing something like that as well, but we didn't quite get it. We didn't even get to the override. We just pushed off. Let's see. So we have Sweden. Section here. Okay, it's cool. It's looking good. So we can look at it like this, and essentially we didn't quite come up here, but that's fine because now it gives me an indication. Okay, we're looking at something like this. Interesting that. So if that's the case and US dollar goes long, we'll look at the DXY. US dollar goes long, comes here, fills that. This can come up here and fill that high. So, okay, cool. I'm interested in this one actually. It's been a while since I've had USD CAD on, but I think USD CAD it's in a good area right now. This will determine quite a lot. Okay, so going back to that push down on the flag, I think it's clearer on the weekly, weirdly enough. Sorry, did I say weekly? Yeah, weekly. Yeah. So we can see here that we pushed down, we corrected, completed that middle section. That is our middle section. Okay, and the reason is that kind of fills in the 1, 2, 3. I did take in this point here, which I guess for some people is a little bit unusual, but it just fits in with the context of what I'm looking at. By no means necessarily does this mean that this is the structure. It's just the most relevant for what I'm looking at. We broke the low, we pushed towards this area. We're looking like we could potentially reverse on the DXY, and if the DXY goes long, we have to look at price target for the US related pairs. This could look like a good long, so I'm going to stay sharp with this one. Let it do whatever it has to do down here. It has to do all this, cool. But if it comes back up, I'm looking for that long position. Even if it just went from here, I'm still looking for it. Even if it was equal to that, and for some reason it was like, cool, the floor is there. I know where I want to position myself. So that's basically what I'm looking for. I'm going to mark that one there, let it do its thing. And yeah, I think that one I really do like USD CAD, but there's a few good pairs on, so I'll have to evaluate. I'm sure it's going to make it onto my watch list. And then I've got the daily USD Swiss, not yet ready for me. Okay, so I've got that 4 hour.
Oh, that's looking interesting though. Look, we just basically dropped off all of that price action. We're not really given that strong pullback vibe yet. Liquidity there. That could be a nice short play to continue and fill that move. I think that is a 10 out of 10 trade if that plays. I like that. I really do like that. USD Swiss though, I'm not looking for the short right now, but the short is on the table. Yeah, I'm going to leave that. I think compared to some of the other stuff I've got, I'm not interested, even with all those. You know, sometimes I hate when I see stuff like that because you just keep seeing them as different rules. But see, I think the best way to see it is to see as like, you know, if we're going to break through it or if we're going to rebound. But the market can play with you sometimes, so you know, it comes with experience as well. And this is USD yen. Oh boy, I've been waiting for this for ages. I don't know why I haven't. It's not the first time I wanted to analyze. Sometimes it's nice that these are at the very end. Cool. That trend line means nothing, but it's more interesting that we're approaching this level here. I will take that and put on that bit there actually. It's a little bit more. So you know what? This bit doesn't really matter. I think that what I'm looking for is the same anyway. I'm just looking for push up, push back down, flag, and that's basically it. I think 110,000% I'll be looking to take that on board. Stay neutral, understand that this can extend further because we're reaching this area, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to sell off. It's very, very possible. And it probably won't be that large, I'll be honest with you. I always draw them on so big. Okay, so it could easily come in to something like that, and then we extend and go further. But what I am looking for is to push up, push back down. Probably not that many, but just something a bit tight. And then and that's basically what I'm looking for. So there's two ways I'm looking at this. We either extend and just keep pushing, or we push down and create that. So wow, this one actually cheers me up quite a lot. You know, I think this is a great end to the Saturday. Just having a look at that. And then we had the beautiful New Zealand ZAR. USD ZAR. USD ZAR, I think structurally is honestly one of the most beautiful exotic pairs. And the nice thing is that it doesn't cost a lot to get involved in these trades. So you had this one, which I think I did take this trade. So we had that one, and then we had very messy price action. We could contemplate that this was a trade, because it definitely was. And then there was a little squeeze in here. We had a trade in here as well. And over here. No, not over here, sorry. That would have been probably a loss. This one, I think this would have been more so a loss. It is what it is. And then, yeah, I would also be looking at it like that. There we are. Look at all of that, and and there's another one right there. I think this one as well is more risk, though. I wouldn't have wanted to take that one personally, but we had the 1, 2, 3 leading until we had so much, you know. Not just that, we just, yeah, honestly, I could go on with this all day. So, yeah. Cool. Alright, wicked guys. So that basically covers it. Would I be taking a trade on USD ZAR? Probably not. To be honest, we are so early in this run as well. I think I'll wait. I'll wait patiently now for the DXY to see what happens. But this is looking really good, guys, honestly. I think if you want to get good at analyzing structures and prices, just analyze this little bit of that I've just drawn here. And I think if you just analyze this bit of the run with the higher time frame structure, understanding we came into this, and then as we approached it, we saw the weekly, the candlesticks, and then you go down to daily, then you see how, okay, cool, we approached it, and then we go to the 4 hour, and then understand what's happening there, and then we go to the 1 hour, and we break down the structures, and then we go to the 15-minute, we look at each individual structure, and then we look within the structure, we look at, okay, so we had that, what happened when we got there, we had this, what happened when we got there, and then we had this, obviously it became more of a very tight pennant, and then so forth. You know, analyze them, see how you would have been able to take advantage of them, and if you have any questions, you know, you can always drop me a message. Obviously, you're not always going to be able to take them, you're not always going to be able to catch every trade. Like that one there alone, probably easily missed by so many people. This one here, not the easiest one. Nice trade though, for sure, but you know, that's it. So anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.